Good day, my fellow African. It's me again, Advocate Malasela Teffo. This time around, I want to make a plea to my countrymen and women in relation to the treatment of Ms. Nonhlanhla Khumalo. I've seen that Khumalo has made an attempt to respond to what I've said at the podcast in Chill at the social media. However, it was not necessary for her to have come and tried to attempt to answer or to respond, because I was not fighting Kelly and I'm not fighting Kelly. What I can say, my fellow South African, Kelly is very important witness in the matter of Senzo Maiwa. We need Kelly to come and testify. So we should not, I'm pleading with you to refrain from attacking Kelly and saying nasty thing about her. So she is very important in this matter. We need her to come and testify so that we can have the closure on the matter of Senzo Maiwa. We can have the closure and the grand closure because we'll be knowing the truth. Kelly has never refused to come and testify. It's just that Baloyi doesn't want to call Kelly to come and testify. So we should cooperate and work nicely with Kelly, because this is what I know. 100% of South African people and the world over, they need a closure on this matter. And that closure should not just be the closure in vain, but the closure that has got the truth.
So that is Advocate Teffo there responding back to what Kelly Khumalo had just said on that TikTok video. So from this video, it seems as if Advocate Teffo has nothing against Kelly Khumalo and is saying, you know what, Kelly Khumalo knows the truth. Let's not harass her. So the big question is, did Advocate Teffo really say anything negative about Kelly Khumalo on that podcast and chill whilst he was with Mark J? The claim that might have provoked Kelly Khumalo to go as far as to release that video, it is because of what Advocate Teffo said when Teffo said that it's Kelly Khumalo who had the gun, then she pulled the trigger by mistake. So that allegation that Teffo said, I think that's the one that provoked Kelly Khumalo. So in as much as Teffo can come in and say, we need Kelly Khumalo, all this and that, Kelly Khumalo is having none of it because she is saying that this guy is accusing him. So one interesting thing about Kelly Khumalo is that she does not want to speak about this entire issue of Senzo Meiwa on podcasts and even on traditional medias. She doesn't even want to talk about it. But Advocate therefore claims that Kelly Khumalo wants to speak and is being blocked by Advocate Baloyi. So from my observation, I don't think that Kelly Khumalo wants to speak about any of this, because if she wanted to speak about it, then she could have spoken a long time ago. We can see this even with this guy Kinikunene after he was caught at Katiso Molefe's house. Kinikunene went to every media house, SABC, Newsroom Africa, ENCA, and was explaining himself, and saying, no, this is what happened. You could see that that man, Kinikunene, he wants to speak and talk about it. Unlike Kelly Khumalo, she never does that to explain herself. So when Kelly Khumalo is listening to Advocate Teffo speaking, he is seeing someone who is trying to get her arrested. Even in as much as Advocate Teffo can argue and say, we are doing what is right, Kelly Khumalo wants to speak, Kelly Khumalo is seeing Teffo from a completely different angle. She is seeing someone who is trying to send her to jail. So this is the problem with not speaking like what Kelly Khumalo is doing. You know, when you don't speak and give your own side or your own version of the events, you know, even in media websites, you know, people would come in and start to speak for you on your behalf, and they start giving their own thoughts about what you did and what you didn't do. It is because you would have left this huge gap, which is now being filled in by all of these guys. So what should Kelly Khumalo do? You know, I think it's best for Kelly Khumalo to just go to one of these podcasts or even media sites, you know, like SABC, and just give your own version of the events. You know, there is no need for her to keep on keeping quiet because people obviously continue to talk about her. Because one of the worst things is that her silence is like affecting her, even her own career of singing. As you just saw, there's this live show where people are throwing cans on the stage. It is because she is not explaining herself, you know. So looking at Teffo and what he talks about, you know, his version of the events, he says Kelly was giving a firearm to Senzo, but Senzo was being playful, you know. And then when Senzo was about to receive that firearm, that's when the bullet then came out. So this is very descriptive by Advocate Teffo, and it implies, you know, that there was someone who was very close, you know, and was seeing everything that was happening there. So overall, there is one like glaring issue that I'm seeing with Advocate Defo, and it is that he is putting a lot of faith in Kelly Khumalo. He is putting a lot of faith that if Kelly Khumalo is given an opportunity to speak, he is going to speak the truth. I think Advocate Teffo is putting himself in a tight corner, because imagine a situation whereby Kelly Khumalo is then given the opportunity to then speak at the Meiwa trial. Then Kelly Khumalo goes and says there were people that entered the house, and the people that shot Senzo Meiwa are those five guys that you're seeing over there. Advocate Teffo then would be in a scenario whereby he can't backtrack from what he said earlier, because he was fully convinced that Kelly Khumalo was going to pinpoint at somebody else. So the amount of faith that he is putting and hoping that Kelly Khumalo is going to speak the truth, I think he's putting himself in a dangerous position. I don't think he has to be doing that. Because Advocate Teffo has already told us that Kelly used the firearm from Paloi and he pulled the trigger by mistake. What else does Teffo need from Kelly Khumalo? Is he hoping that Kelly Khumalo is going to come forward and implicate himself? There is no way that is going to happen. No one implicates themselves, you know. Of course, there are people that implicate themselves, but to expect Kelly Khumalo to go at the Meiwa trial and implicate himself, I think that's like being a poor lawyer. Exactly, I think I'll put it that way. Therefore, he's saying, I have the evidence, the affidavit from Longo Twala. This is what happened. So with all of that, he doesn't need any testimony from Kelly Khumalo. So this is it about Advocate Teffo and Kelly Khumalo. I'll catch you guys on the next one.